In this demo video, I'm going to quickly show you how to build a table visual using some of the data from our video games dataset. So just to remind you where the table visual is located, if you go to the visualizations pane and go to the fifth row of visuals, the table is just the second visual in that row. So I'm going to add a table to our report. I'm going to go ahead and stretch this so that it takes up the entire page. And now I'm going to go over to our data sets, and I'm going to just pick a handful of fields to add to the table just for the purposes of populating it. So I'm going to pick video game title. I'm going to add genre and category and developer and rating. All I'm trying to do is pick a nice assortment of several fields, that you might use if you were building a table yourself. I'm also going to add some numeric fields to the table just to give it a little bit more detail, and also so that we can activate these totals at the bottom of the table. So I'm adding sales, my video game units, and I'll go ahead and add the average community score to this as well. You can see that the community score is currently showing me the sum for that field. That's pretty normal for Power BI visualizations, for the default aggregation to be the sum. All I have to do is go over to my visualizations pane, click the down arrow for community score, set that to average, and now it's showing me the average community score. So now we've got a nice big table here. So that's pretty much all you had to do. Creating the table is just as simple as taking any fields from your data set and dropping them into the table visual. However, we want to focus quickly on the formatting options, because tables and matrices have slightly different formatting options from many of the other visuals, because you're not dealing with bars as you would in a column chart or lines as you would in a line chart. You're dealing with tables, and tables are made of grids of columns and rows. And our options that we have in the formatting section kind of reflect that. So first we have our general settings, which is really just if you want to change the shape or size of the table. Pretty simple stuff. They're not used very, very often. You also have a list of preset table styles that you can choose from. If I'm being honest, there are about 10 here. I think I've used 2 in the 5 or 6 years that I've been building these. But all these presets do, for example, if you want a table that looks minimal, this minimal style contains presets to make a very minimal looking table. Or if you want something that's really loud and obnoxious and has, tons of different formatting features applied, you can choose flashy rows. I wouldn't recommend it. It makes for one ugly looking table. But this is just to highlight that many of these different settings are just to give you different table styles without you really having to do anything as a developer. For the purposes of this demo, though, I'm just going to go with the minimal setting. The grid is where you can adjust the actual grid lines that appear between the rows or between the columns. You might notice that the vertical grid is turned off by default. If we turn that on, you'll notice that now we have vertical lines separating all of our columns. That's really just up to your preference. I oftentimes leave the vertical grid turned off. And if you wanted to change the padding, or in other words, the amount of space between the rows, that's something you can do using the row padding features. If you want there to be more space, notice that as I increase the row padding, some of my values over here are starting to drop off because there's more space between the rows. That's all that we're accomplishing by increasing the row padding. You can also adjust the actual size of the values in the table in the grid section by increasing the text size. So all I'm doing here is I'm just increasing font sizes across the table. This is a good quick way of increasing all the fonts that appear throughout the table, including the column headers, the values, and the totals. Column headers is where you are changing the formatting of just the headers at the top of each column. For example, if you wanted to give them a background like navy, you can change the font color to white. It's just a way of adding a little bit of style to the column headers up here. Values is where you can actually change the formatting within the table. For example, if you wanted to change the look of every other row, you can give every other row an alternate background color. So if I change this to light gray, you'll notice immediately in the table that now I have different colored rows alternating between white and gray, which is exactly what you see here. And all of my text is black because my font color and my alternate font color are black, which is usually how I leave them. You also can adjust the font size within the table here, same as we did under the grid section. And the total is just the formatting options for the total as it appears down here. If you wanted to give that a background similar to the column header, or if you wanted to increase the size of the totals, pretty simple stuff. Field formatting is something that I really wanted to highlight in this demo, and that is if you want to add special formatting to a specific column in this. Like for example, what if we really wanted this sales column to stand out? What if we think that sales is really what we want users to take away from this table? Field formatting allows you to drop down and select any column that you've created in this table, and we can select sales. And then you can specifically customize the formatting just for that column. For example, if we wanted to make it navy like our header and make the text stand out, this is just one more way of just drawing attention to this column so that users know that's where they should focus on. And then you have the option of applying the same formatting to the header or applying the same formatting to the total, which we can do, and I'll demonstrate just by turning that on. And that, by and large, is all there is to a table. If you wanted to give it a title, something like Video Game Insights, you can do that. And my title is starting to appear up here. And then we can do what we usually do with the titles and align it to the center and increase the size. And now we're pretty much done. And that's how you create a table.